They Live, made in 1988, directed by John Carpenter, is the most important movie which has hit Hollywood. This isn't just a movie, but it's actually a news headline of foretelling future events of what is to come. John Carpenter was underrated director. He was misunderstood. A lot of his movies didn't even hit the big screen because of the harsh critical reviews. John Carpenter, he wasn't misunderstood by Hollywood. He was actually very much understood by Hollywood. But he was actually misunderstood by the public. That's the main difference. Hollywood understood John Carpenter very well. John Carpenter was trying to tell the viewer an important message. So he used his Hollywood movies as a way of getting the message out. He gave out many messages in his movies. They Live had to be one of the most important messages as it deals with the political, economical, social and technological factors of everyday life. They Live is such a powerful message that Hollywood removed it off the charts, that they didn't want Americans well informed. Here is the proof.
The movie came out and it was right on the cusp of DVDs, before things went straight to DVD. It was right around the time that was beginning to happen. It was number one in the movie in the country for 2 weeks. 2 weeks straight, it was the number one movie. After the 2 weeks, you couldn't find it anywhere. It went off the planet. And I said to Sandy, what's up with that? She said, obviously it pissed somebody off. Because you couldn't see, you just couldn't find it. It was just not to be found. And that's again, one of the things that caused it to become a sort of underground cult kind of film.
John Carpenter isn't just a Hollywood director. He is an American patriot who wanted to use Hollywood for better use. But as it's controlled by Jewish Hollywood, who are Zionists, the same people who Carpenter was trying to expose, his movies were silenced by them and not given awards or Oscars which they deserved. Now let us continue with They Live. The story tells you of George Nader, who is a homeless person in search of work in LA. George Nader stares above the tall skyscrapers in the city, hoping there lays an opportunity for him. The rich life, the American dream. Nader goes to the job center. He tries his luck for a job. Nader tells the lady they lost 14 banks in 1 week. Nader is telling the economy is collapsing. The lady tells him, there is nothing for you right now. Nader walks out. Nader then walks into the park. He hears the voice of a priest preacher. Nader listens curiously. The priest is saying, quoting these words, "They use their tongues to deceive you. The venom of snakes is on their lips. They have taken the hearts and minds of our leaders. They have recruited the rich and the powerful, and they have blinded us to the truth. Our human spirit is corrupted. Why do we worship greed? Because outside the limit of our sight, they're feeding off us, perched on top of us from birth to death. Our owners, they have us, they control us, they are our masters." And he closed it off with an all-important message to the viewers. Wake up, they're all about you, all around you. As soon as Nader stands still to listen, the police arrive to arrest the priest. Nader moves on. The above speech tells us a lot of what is going to happen further in the movie. This scene tells us that those who are in the higher ups wish to destroy spirituality. Any scripture which deals with getting people to think about today's times will be halted by the ruling class. The government don't want a strong society where they believe in a God, a superpower strength. They want the dollar currency to be your God, a spiritual belief in money. We will go in great detail in further of the movie. The next scene, you see a guy looking at the television. He hasn't moved an inch. Clearly, John Carpenter is telling you, many of us are mind controlled. We are hypnotized by the distractions of the television. Nader walks right past him, as he is unique and a tough character. He is unstoppable. It takes more than a television to distract him. Straight after, there is another scene of a lady on the television. This time Nader is bored. He decides to give it a try of watching television, as he is very curious. As he watches the lady quotes, "Sometimes when I watch TV, I stop being myself, and I'm a star of a series, or I have my own talk show, or I'm on the news getting out of a limo, going someplace important. All I ever have to do is to be famous. People watch me, and they love me, and I never grow old, and I never die." By that time, Nader moves his head away from the television, realizing she is a fake, a phony, a distraction. Nader overcame himself, taking control of his life, freeing his mind. He moves his head away from the television and closes his eyes and goes to sleep. The next day, Nader starts construction work. He meets Frank, who is his new work colleague. To me, this is actually when Neo meets Morpheus. Now they are both together. They are a team. Nader and Frank relationship is very important in this movie. It basically means it doesn't matter if you're white or if you're black. They own both of you. Nader and Frank job roles are construction workers, where they are building homes for the future. The builders are the hope of the future. Through centuries, our ancestors have built homes for the next generation. Then the cycle continues. Nader and Frank both are hard laborers. The construction job is a man's job. This is the American muscle, where blood and sweat is involved to construct. They have physical strength, but now they will soon go on their adventure on the spiritual mind. Frank invites Nader to a homeless place to stay. As they visit, they see a lot of people living in poor conditions, but still going strong. The mother is reading a book to her son, the old traditional ways of passing down education in many generations. Another scene follows. The old are being taken care of. An old man has been given food. Another scene shows an old traditional lady is knitting. Looking at these people, they have a lot of family values. They have continued with their traditions. They have been sealed off from the higher class society, but the poorer class society still have better family values and remains as a very strong unit. Nader and Frank sit together and have discussion during a meal. They both have discussion regarding the economic situation about steel mills and factories closing down. Frank starts to blame foreigners for the loss of jobs. Frank also goes on further, willing to attack foreign factories. Nader interrupts him and says, "You need to have more patience." Frank says, "I'm all out." In this conversation, you can see Frank is the most informed in this conversation, as he is doing all the talking. But Frank has blamed foreigners for the economic crisis when he should be blaming the masters who control the country. As the masters who control society, they create the divide and rule strategies to keep Americans and foreigners fighting, while they are in the shadows profiting every time as they are noticed. Then later, Nader looks at the city horizon. He tells Frank, "I believe in America. I follow the rules. Everybody got their hard times these days. Nader believes in the American dream, hoping one day he will live the dream. Nader then joins the couch with the homeless who are watching the television. Then the TV signal is interrupted by a hacker. The hacker quotes these words: "Our impulses are being redirected. We live in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves and to others. We are only focused only on our own gain." The signal cuts out. Then soon after, one of the viewers says he is getting a headache, as the new information he has received he cannot comprehend. Then the signal comes back on the television: "Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated." Then, soon after, the old man walks up to the television. He changes the channel and says, "Blow it out your ass." This is how the truth is treated, as most people are not ready for the change, for the awakening. They depend on the system. Nader has shown signs of interest in the hacker's speech. He is beginning to awaken. On the television, if you look carefully, there is the two Masonic columns which fall, which references to the 9/11. The fall of the two columns is Solomon's two pillars, boys and judging, falling, opening the gateway to the kingdom of higher consciousness. The next day, the hacker breaks through the TV signal again with a new message. They are dismantling the sleeping middle class. Suddenly, more and more people are becoming poor. We are their cattle. We are being bred for slavery. We can't break through the signal. Our transmitter is not powerful enough. The signal must be shut off. The hacker sounds like many of us today who use YouTube as a form of communication, but we are being distracted by mainstream YouTube channels who get millions of views, and the videos which have the most important messages get pushed aside. The signal is shut down. Account suspension. Do you catch my drift? We must break the signal, the internet. We are now living in the times of they live, more than ever before. Nader then walks up to the church, which overshadows the homeless settlers. The church has choir playing in the background. This is now becoming Nader's spiritual journey. He looks at the wall. It says, "They live, we sleep." What does this mean exactly? Nader overlistens to a group of men in the church talking about shipments, how to raise enough people. We need strong people, and network is part of the discussion. The priest-preacher catches Nader. He is the same priest from the park. The priest leaves an important message as Nader tries to escape. The priest quotes these words to Nader: "This world may have blinded me, but the Lord has let me see. You will be back. You will be back." The priest is blind. He doesn't need any type of sunglasses, but he still can see through the darkness of evil which lays in this world. The priest has faith in the Lord, which protects him from the elite. Nader continues his spiritual journey as he leaves the church. When the night falls, the police raid the church and beat the homelessness, using bulldozers to destroy their homes, destroying communities. Families are displaced. A very important illustration of this scene, as John Carpenter uses this location very well, where the church overshadows the homelessness. This looks similar to Palestine, as how the Zionists in Israel are oppressing the Palestinians, while the homelessness are being oppressed by the Zionists. They use the power of the government and police to push the poor out of their homes. This is how the Zionists operate in Palestine, soon to happen in America. That's what John Carpenter is trying to reach out to the viewers. The church which is getting raided is symbolic that this is a spiritual war. The hacker and the priest are brutally beaten by the police as they both stood for the truth. Nader wants to help but escapes with a teenager from the brutal forces. I believe this is one of the most powerful scenes of They Live movie, showing that innocent Americans are being removed from their homes. And this is clear of what Palestine looks like at the moment. And this is what Jewish Hollywood didn't want American public to see and try to understand of what John Carpenter was trying to reach out to the public, of bulldozers demolishing homes while the super rich profiting from them. This is a very, very powerful scene. The American Patriot music kicks in as helicopters fly over the house. Nader stands alone, overshadowing two sets of people. One set is a family of 3 who are scared and wide awake. The other is someone who's smoking drugs and doesn't know what is happening. It's now up to Nader to decide which path to take. The next morning, Nader goes back to the church. The message which quoted "They live, we sleep" has been removed from the wall. Nader finds a hidden box in the church walls and takes a parcel into the alleyway. Now this is the beginning of Nader's spiritual journey. Nader opens the box. He finds sunglasses. He walks outside and looks at the computer billboard poster, puts on the sunglasses, and subliminally it says "Obey." Nader is shocked in amazement. He looks at the poster which has a woman in a bikini, puts on the glasses. It says "Marry and reproduce." This tells us there is a parallel between the light world and the dark world. Nader has now entered the dark world. He has followed the white rabbit and entered the matrix. Nader has gained higher consciousness and is now using the same methods of how the super elite use the all-seeing eye on the public. Nader now uses his new eyes, his new weapon, on them. The system is reversed. Nader is now on the spiritual heights, gaining knowledge of the architects who built this prison. Nader's body is a temple. His mind is now a weapon. Nader continues to observe his new reality. Every sign, every billboard is not as it seemed. They read, "Stay asleep, watch TV, submit, conform, buy, marry and reproduce, no independent thought, work 8 hours, sleep 8 hours, play 8 hours, no imagination, do not question authority." As Nader begins to understand that the architects who built the matrix, they are shaping our consciousnness. Nader looks across at a shelf of magazines. One of the magazines is called Hollywood, Then and Now, with Cher on the front cover. John Carpenter is even exposing the Hollywood industry by adding the magazine to the collections as a form of mind control tools. The top book next to Nader, which displays Edgar Cayce on ESP, tells us about Edgar, who was an American psychic, possessed the ability to able to read minds and souls, can see into the past and the future, and tap into a source of universal knowledge, telling everyone has the capability. The two other books are two of a kind, The Hillside Strangler and a book of the Bermuda Triangle. Both of these books are non-fiction. One book deals with murders of women in LA in the 1970s, the other book deals with the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. If you look on the right shelf, the Golf cover magazine, it clearly says in black bold letters, "Let TV teach you." Nader opens the magazine in front of him. The article shows police officers congratulating each other after an award ceremony. The lower article heading reads "Classroom Disarmament," where the government has new methods of controlling children's behavior by using scare tactics on field trips, visiting prisoners, where kids talk to inmates, and law will be enforced if children misbehave. This magazine tells us that the police are being awarded and children are being punished. What has the world become? This is a question we have to ask ourselves. Nader then looks away from the magazine, and right in front of him he sees the first hideous looking alien. The alien faces are mutated, symbolizing have no soul. The aliens are hiding among society. They are the aliens which have taken over while they have put the country to sleep. They are the aliens who have taken over your financial institutions and your TV stations. These aliens have invaded America. These aliens are Zionists who hide among others. John Carpenter refers these aliens to Zionists who hide among others by disguising themselves as one of your own. If we now look at American history, when the Zionists came over into America in the 1920s, they changed many of their surnames, having many nose operations, changing their identities so they cannot be discovered. If you look at this alien, he is wearing a suit, most likely a high salary job, most probably a banker. Nader then looks at his dollar currency with his sunglasses. It says, "This is your God." The dollar currency system depends entirely on religious faith by the American people in the supernatural power of the dollar. The matrix is to manipulate the spiritual will of the people in much the same way that a magician would, inspiring them to have faith in the value of the dollar. These objects thus act as magical charms containing a unit of magical charge that is passed on from one person to the next and multiplied as the money changes hands. Every time a person spends a dollar or accepts a dollar as a payment, they are confirming their belief in the dollar and using it to exercise their spiritual will. The mysterious markings on the dollar bill can be understood. The words "In God we trust" are meant to inspire faith in the dollar as a currency and faith in the American Republic. One should trust the dollar the way one trusts in God, for it is implied that God himself has chosen to favor the US and by extension the dollar. This is communicated by the message on the reverse of the Great Seal. If we now look at the other book behind the Zionist Banker, The Tomorrow File by Lawrence Sanders. This is a very interesting and involved book of manipulation, espionage, betrayal and love in a futuristic society. This society is rather where the scientists and governments and top organizations put plans in action to control minds, thoughts, feelings and actions. Very well written and told. There is a satellite moving over the city, repeatedly saying "sleep, sleep, sleep," over and over again. Nader then investigates the economy. He walks around through the city. He investigates women, only caring about the glamour world, trying to look good on the outside, but look like aliens who have a dark soul in the inside, who depend on the Matrix. Nader then walks to the supermarket, as the supermarket tells you the same people who control the food are the Zionist financial institutions who want you to buy and buy just to consume. In the supermarket, there is an interesting conversation takes between the alien getting the promotion and the normal person doesn't get the job because he is not one of them. This is also how the Hollywood industry works. If you are not one of them, if you do not serve their agenda, or if you are not Jewish enough, you won't get in. This is why John Carpenter was pushed out of Hollywood, where his movies weren't getting into the mainstream market due to restrictions and censorship of his films.
Heroes in my films are unlikely, are underappreciated. I kind of like that feel of somebody who's not so hip and rich.
John Carpenter was also telling his own story in They Live.
And doesn't just cruise through every situation, but has to struggle. So it reminds me of most of us.
It was #1 in the movies in the country for 2 weeks. 2 weeks straight, it was the #1 movie. After the 2 weeks, you couldn't find it anywhere. It went off the planet.
John Carpenter, when we shot the scene with the homeless people, he actually used the homeless people there. John is a big activist, you know, and I give him all the respect in the world for that.
And I said to Sandy, what's up with that? She said, obviously it pissed somebody off. because you couldn't see, you just couldn't find it. It was just not to be found.
Nader then looks at the television. He begins to understand the political system is also corrupt, with strong Zionist lobbies, such as today we have AIPAC, who control the American politicians. Nader begins to realize he can't even trust the president. Then the old lady says, "I've got one that can see." So what this tells us, they first act normal around you, that they are one of you. The minute you expose them, they will come after you, trying to destroy you through any means possible to protect themselves from not being discovered. Now the police officers come to arrest Nader. Nader knows he can't trust the police. The police are only there to protect the state, not the people. Nader now wants to take back America, what it originally was. He has no job, he has no home. He decides to do something about it. He battles the police officers and retrieves a handgun and a shotgun. After witnessing the corrupted economic system, looking at his money, stating money is your god, understanding these aliens got better jobs than us, then discovering they control American politicians, Nader takes the shotgun and enters the bank. Nader's main mission here is to destroy the financial institution of what the Zionists use to gain the power. Nader stands directly next to the American flag, holding a shotgun, wearing cool sunglasses, stands as a patriot of his country to take out these Zionists who control the American financial institutions. This is Occupy Wall Street. The power of this scene shows Americans taking back their banks from the invaders. This is a very motivational scene, removing the Zionist Jewish bankers such as Goldman Sachs, Rockefeller, Rothschild from power. It is also very important to note down the shotgun. It gives American a defense mechanism. Today's time there is a ban on guns. They want to prevent scenes like this from happening in the future, where American patriots are taking over the banks with guns. Nader then leaves the bank. He can see a spy drone flying over him. He begins to understand the technology factors. He shoots the spy drone out of the sky. If we look at today, we have many drones more than ever. We have many killer drones in many parts of the world. killing many families, and also there are many spy drones which are flying over America to spy on people. In this movie, it was just an idea of what America will look like in the future. Today, it's a reality. Drones with cameras are so cheap to manufacture, they will be introduced by governments, seeing as a spy drone flying over your head every day. Nader is now an outlaw. He is alone, in search of help. Nader continues on his spiritual journey. Nader stares at the police officer with his sunglasses, knowing he is human, but he has chosen the opposition. This is the parallel to what Morpheus tells Neo about the police.
The very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
Nader is now an outlaw. He escapes from the Matrix by taking a bypasser, a hostage, to escape from what he has witnessed. The following chapter deals with informing others of the truth, trying to tell the truth. It is not an easy task. The truth gets people into serious trouble. People can get angry and turn away. As a new information, it can be very difficult to comprehend. This chapter deals with how Nader tries to pass on the information to others. Nader now tries to convince Holly what he has seen by quoting these words. "Look, lady, we're in trouble. The whole world is in trouble. I don't know what they are or where they came from." Holly shows little signs of interest, as she has a high salary job and works for the Zionist mainstream media, which is Cable 54. Nader is later attacked by Holly and is now defenseless. No gun, no glasses, he is now on his own. Nader stays low and tries to convince his only friend Frank of what he has witnessed. After unsuccessful attempts to convince Frank of what he has seen as a true reality of this prison planet, Frank quotes these words: "I have wife and kids, leave me alone." Some of us are not willing to fight for our freedoms. We rather allow to be controlled by our government, as we have been conditioned to obey. Work 8 hours, sleep 8 hours, play 8 hours, watch TV. Money is your God. Nader has now become the most wanted on national television. You see, the Zionist Jewish mainstream media control all American TV stations and British TV stations, such as Australian billionaire Jewish Zionist Rupert Murdoch, who is the founder, chairman and CEO of global media holding company News Corporations, the world's second largest media owner. Rupert Murdoch owns The Sun. Rupert Murdoch owns The Sun, Sunday Times, News of the World, Sky Television, The New York Post, 20th Century Fox, Fox News Channel, Imagine Games Network, IGN, Star TV, Associated Press, Wall Street Journal. They control the signal of what comes in and what comes out. If there is a communication satellite, the Zionists control it. They have made a good person into a bad person. This is what the Zionist media does best. Nader is now a terrorist. Frank finds Nader in the alleyway. He offers Nader money to get his life back together. Nader could have taken the money and continued with his life, but Nader knows the true meaning of the monetary system, the human spiritual belief in money. This is your God. He refuses to obey. Nader insists he must carry out his mission, which is spreading the truth. Frank refuses to listen, so they have a 10-minute fight of punching and kicking, which is one of the longest fight scenes in movie history. This fight scene tells us the importance of the struggle to convince somebody who you may know. It takes a lot of effort for somebody to finally understand. After the fight scene, Frank loses to Nader. Nader forces Frank to wear the sunglasses. Frank finally sees the aliens ruling the world. Frank and Nader were both individuals. Now they are a team. They both are on the mission of truth. Nader and Frank check in at a hotel. They both have a discussion of what to do next. Frank quotes these words: "Maybe they've always been with us. Those things out there. Maybe they love it, seeing us hate each other, watching us kill each other off, feeding on our own cold hearts." What Frank tells us here is very true. It's the divide and rule strategy which has been used for a very long time. The Zionists remain undetected because they keep you fighting each other. It could be about race, if you're a white or if you're black, national or international, rich or poor, religious or atheist, straight or homosexual. Anything which is different about you, they will keep you fighting while they keep profiting in the banks. This is how they operate. This is how they rule us. The moment people realize they have more similarities, they will be united and all focus will be on the higher ups. Nader tells Frank, quoting these words, "I've got news for him. There's going to be hell to pay. I ain't daddy's little boy no more." The reference Nader uses of daddy is the government. Nader is saying, "I ain't the government's little boy anymore. Enough is enough. Time to do something about it." A resistance member approaches Frank and the American Patriot music kicks in to hint to the viewer it's time to stand up. The resistance member gives the coordinates of the secret network. Gilbert tells Frank and Nader of how many people can't be trusted, quoting these words, "Most of us just sell out right away. Then all of a sudden we get promoted. Our bank accounts get bigger. We'll do anything to be rich." These examples can be of the Bush family, the Clintons, Obama administration. So many of these politicians are not Zionists but are willing to sell out right away to get bigger bank accounts, as they are controlled by the Zio matrix of power, such as Goldman Sachs, who buy out American politicians. The TV hacker gives an important speech of what the aliens want from humans. The TV hacker quotes these words of wisdom: "They deplete the planet, move on to another. We could be pets or food, but all we really are is livestock." The TV hacker is telling us the Zionists are not from America. They are from Europe. They travel wherever they see opportunity to build their bases. Once they build their bases, they suck you out dry like livestock till you have nothing left. Once you are empty, they leave and find a new location. This is how the Zionist Jewish bloodlines operate. In the underground network, we see a table of guns, single-barrel shotguns, machine guns, handguns, grenades, weapons to be used as a self-defense mechanism. You can now begin to understand in today's times of reality of why the ban on guns is so important. Because once Americans find out they have been lied to, the public will rise and the government will be outnumbered. So it's important for the government to act now, to take away the weapons from the American patriots, but it's okay for the American government to supply weapons to Al-Qaeda terrorists. The secret meeting then gets raided by the police. Nader and Frank escape. As they defend themselves from the Israeli police, they use their new gadget to open a portal. They enter the portal and leads them to an underground base. The underground base is very important to note down. The signs have two languages. One is in English for the local Americans who have sold out. The other language written is a foreign language. The language is above the English, as these invaders are the main owners of the United States of America. If you look at the language, it looks very similar to ancient Hebrew text. The team wanders into a luxurious banquet hall. Here, the human upper class who have chosen the side of the Zion matrix of power. The puppeteer gives his speech to his audience. Our projections show that by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of the Power Alliance. The gains have been substantial, both for ourselves and for you, the human power elite. Big applause. You have given us entry to the resources we need in our ongoing quest for multi-dimensional expansion. In return, the per capita income for each of you in this room has grown in this year alone by an average 39%. The puppeteer who gave the speech to the ruling class can relate to the Bilderbergs, who have their private meetings once a year. In the audience you have humans and aliens together. The examples can relate to such as King Abdullah from Saudi Arabia. You may also have the Pope Francis from Italy. You may have the President Obama from America, who all work together under the Zionist matrix of power, who control these famous world icons. It's the old man from before, the one that was mocking the hacker, the same one we saw switching the channel when the voice of truth came on. What does he have to say to our buddies? Hi boys, I didn't know you'd been recruited. So the old man was a disinfo agent. His words made it quite obvious that he didn't just join up, so he must have been an infiltrator. The agent gives them a tour of the complex. They stop by the launching pad from where travelers can go to other destinations. This is a very important scene to note down, as John Carpenter is telling the viewer these Zionist invaders have traveled very far to get to the United States. More specifically, they have traveled from Europe, and the Jews have made New York the principal port of America. It is the gateway where the Jewish powers used to build their foundation to gain wealth and power, to define that the United States is the promised land foretold by their prophets, and New York is the New Jerusalem. As you can see, the alien is departing America with 2 bags of money. This is how the Zionist Jews steal the wealth of American taxpayers. They bankrupt the economy, they cause the recession, and launder the money outside of America for their global operations, such as to finance building Israel, to create more wars, to enslave other parts of the world. This is the Zion matrix of power. Once the Zion matrix of power mission has been completed, they will depart to find a new location in another part of the planet. Nader and Frank decide to kill the traitor. Before they pull the trigger, they ask the traitor a question. How do you do it? How do you sell out to your own kind? The traitor quotes these words. It's business. That's all it is. You still don't get it, do you? There ain't no countries anymore. They're running the whole damn show. They own the whole planet. The traitor finally teleports, and Frank and Nader continue their objectives. The prime objective is to get to the roof and to break the signal. For final time, Holly betrays Nader, killing Frank from behind. Her last words were an attempt to persuade Nader from his plans. Holly looks at Nader with her reptilian eyes. Don't interfere, you can't win. And then, the far more telling, come inside with me. When Holly says come inside with me, she is referring to a sexual intercourse. Holly is telling Nader, let's live the good life, let's breed, have children, and work with these invaders. The fineness of Holly's red hair is symbolic for the lady in red, Satan's secret weapon. It is her last attempt to win over Nada's soul. It is very similar to how the lady in red deceived Neo in the training program before a gun is being pulled out in Neo's face.
Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was. Look again.
Nada refuses to sell his soul to Satan. He overcomes himself by killing the lady in red and sacrifices himself for humanity. He shoots at the transmitter, breaking the signal. Nada gets killed in the process by helicopters. Nada falls down. He smiles at the camera and waves a middle finger at those who controlled him, showing he is now free, he has won, he is not afraid. Nada has completed his spiritual journey. His soul is now set free. At the end of the movie, on one of the talk shows, some reviewer who is suddenly exposed as an alien is ranting about morality in movies. All the sex and violence on the screen has gone too far for me. I'm fed up with it. Filmmakers like George Romero and John Carpenter have to show some restraint. It is very interesting to note down George A. Romero and John Carpenter are two of the Hollywood directors who have both the same messages. Wake up, America. If you believe George A. Romero just made movies about zombies, you missed the point. Director George A. Romero is a political activist, just like Carpenter. He used his movies as a platform to tell Americans you are becoming like zombies, and only the few, the fittest of the fittest, shall survive and stay alive. If we now look at some of George A. Romero's movies, Dawn of the Dead is a social commentary about consumerism, that the core location is set in a supermarket, brain-dead zombies doing shopping. Militarism in Day of the Dead, and Bush-era economic injustice in Land of the Dead. The zombies increasingly represented the growing ranks of the dispossessed. Human society was revealed to be the true monster. George A. Romero's Hollywood movies are more about making a political statement and a social commentary. He said his movies are about the humans and their stupidity, and he uses the zombies for fun. George A. Romero and John Carpenter are both directors who have been shut down by the Zionist Jewish powers who control the Hollywood industry. As Romero and Carpenter wish to wake up America, the Zionist Jews who wish to do quite the opposite. They wish to dumb down America. These directors I grew up with, and I'm very lucky to understand how Romero and Carpenter gave their careers up to save their country. Thank you for watching. Share and subscribe for more upcoming videos. Thank you.